Hey guys, this is Vanessa from True Crime in Colorado. We're really excited to bring you our 12 Days of True Crime series. I'll be doing some of these, and the other creator, Randy, will be doing some as well. Just a quick update on our channel. We have a lot coming up that we're really excited to tell you about. We're going to start doing live soon, and we have just started a Patreon. So thank you again for all of the support. So let's begin our 12 Days of True Crime series with our first episode on the unsolved case of Suzanne Joven. Suzanne Joven's case is extremely confusing and extremely frustrating. There were a lot of police errors and various missteps that, in my opinion, have caused this case to not be solved. I'm going to stick to the established timeline and then present the various theories that have been put forward in this case. Suzanne Joven was born on January 26, 1977. She grew up in a quaint German town and actually grew up in a 14th century castle. Her parents were American scientists, and she had a younger sister named Ellen. Suzanne was a 21-year-old student who was attending Yale University in 1998. Her mother had also graduated from Yale, and Suzanne decided to come to the United States to attend her mother's alma mater. Suzanne was an extremely bright student, double majoring in political science and international studies. A lot of Suzanne's friends have complained that she was misrepresented in the media as being shy and timid when she was actually extremely friendly, outgoing, and strong-willed. Suzanne was also very athletic, and she volunteered for nonprofit organizations. She was fluent in 4 languages, volunteered for the elementary school tutoring program, sang in the Yale Freshman Chorus and Bach Society Orchestra, and co-founded the German Club. During the winter of 1998, she was in the process of working on her senior essay. She was also applying to graduate schools. The night that this tragic mystery unfolded was December 4th, 1998. We'll begin the timeline of her day at 4:15 p.m. At 4:15 p.m., Suzanne dropped off her senior essay to her advisor. She had written the essay on Osama bin Laden. She had organized an event for one of the nonprofit organizations she volunteered for called Best Buddies. Best Buddies was an organization to help people with mental and developmental disabilities find friendships, employment, and leadership opportunities. She borrowed a car from the university to attend the pizza party at the Trinity Lutheran Church that she organized for the organization. She stayed after to help clean up. She gave another volunteer a ride home and dropped them off and returned the borrowed vehicle around 8:45 p.m. She then walked the 2 blocks back to her apartment at 258 Park Street, where she lived on the 2nd floor. At 9:02 p.m., Suzanne logged into her email and sent an email to her friend in German saying she would leave some books that they needed in the lobby of her apartment and even left them the access code. She told her friend that first she would have to go get them back from someone she had loaned them to. She did not tell her friend who this person was. To this day, no one knows the identity of the mystery person that she loaned the books to. Suzanne logged out of her email at 9:10 p.m. Because this happened back in 1998, we don't have the luxury of looking at her cell phone records, social media, or GPS. Suzanne realized she forgot to return the keys to her rented vehicle and walked the 2 blocks back to return them. She was wearing jeans, a maroon sweater, and boots. That night was unusually warm for December, and many people were outside walking their dogs and going to parties. A lot of people also had their windows open. On the way, she ran into a classmate named Peter Stein. She told Peter that she was really tired and was ready to go to sleep. He noted that she did not have a backpack and was carrying an 8x11 paper in her right hand. Suzanne and Peter spoke between 9:15 and 9:22, and she dropped the keys off at 9:25 p.m. After dropping the keys off, Suzanne was spotted walking north on College Street away from her apartment between 9:25 and 9:30 p.m. A female student saw that at the time, a darker-skinned male, possibly Hispanic or African American, wearing a hoodie was walking a few steps ahead of her, and a white man with glasses on was a few paces behind her. The girl also saw Suzanne pause to admire the holiday lights along the New Haven Green. This would be the last time Suzanne was seen alive. At 9:55 p.m., a 911 call came in from 2 people saying there was a woman bleeding out on East Rock Road near the corner of Edge Hill Road. It was roughly 2 miles away from where Suzanne was last seen on foot. When police arrived 3 minutes later at 10:58 p.m., Suzanne was already deceased. She was lying on her stomach, feet in the road, body on the grassy area between the road and the sidewalk. She was fully clothed and still wearing her watch and earrings with a crumpled dollar bill in her pocket. Her wallet was later found to still be in her room. Suzanne Joven had been fatally stabbed 17 times in the back of her head and neck, and her throat was slit. Later, only one of the stab wounds was determined fatal by the medical examiner. He would also determine that the murder weapon was a 4 to 5 inch non-serrated carbon steel knife when he discovered the tip of the blade lodged in the left side of her skull. The New Haven police have never revealed whether any tests have ever been done to determine a precise make and model of the knife. According to the police, there was no evidence of sexual assault. The viciousness of the stabbing suggested that robbery had not been her murderer's motive. Police believe she was stabbed from behind at the spot where she was found. It appeared she had gotten out of a car before or after having an argument with a man. She did not appear to have called for help or to have put up a struggle. They also did not believe that Suzanne was running away at the time of her attack. Residents did report hearing a man and woman arguing around 9:45 p.m. This is important because they were heard arguing outside the Eli Whitney luxury apartments not far from where Suzanne's body was found. The medical examiner had placed Suzanne's time of death right around 9:45 p.m. From the beginning, it appeared that police believed that Joven was murdered by a man, one whose motive was probably jealousy or desire or anger. Every guy she knew was interviewed by the cops. The cops were all over them. Her mentoring buddy was briefly a suspect, but he was cleared by the police almost immediately, as was Roman Cadillo, her boyfriend since freshman year, who took a leave from Yale after the murder. There was evidence in this case that could someday lead to the killer. However, from the very beginning, there were crucial errors made by the police. One witness stated that he saw a tan van stopped in the road and facing east where Suzanne was found. This information, however, was not released to the public until 2001, which was extremely puzzling and frustrating. Another witness stated that they saw a man in his 20s or 30s described as running away from the scene as if his life depended on it. This man was described as having an athletic build, well-groomed hair, dark pants, and a loose-fitting green jacket. This is a sketch of the possible suspect. There was also a Fresca bottle in the bushes near Suzanne's body with Suzanne's fingerprints on it and a partial palm print. In addition to that, there was also DNA obtained from underneath Suzanne's fingernails. In addition to the existence of the tan and brown van that was not made public until March 27th of 2001, on November 8th, 2001, it was reported that the New Haven PD had impounded a brown van as part of the Joven investigation, but no link has ever been confirmed. The existence of the Fresca bottle was not made public until April 1st of 2001. There was only one store in the vicinity of campus that sold Fresca that was still open at the hour that Suzanne was last seen alive, and that was Crozer's Market on York Street near Elm Street, precisely 1 block south of Joven's apartment. Although Crozner's kept a video recording of its customers for security purposes, the police have never asked to view their tape and have never reported seeking assistance from store employees or customers about whether they had seen anything unusual that night. The foreign palm print on the Fresca bottle has yet to be identified, and public calls for DNA evidence to be extracted from it and other potential sources have gone unanswered. The first mention of the existence of the fingernail DNA was on October 26, 2001, following a request by the New Haven Police Department for colleagues, friends, and acquaintances of Suzanne Joven to come forward and give DNA samples voluntarily. No explanation has ever been given as to why it took nearly 3 years for the fingernail scrapings to be tested for DNA. On September 14, 2009, Suzanne Joven's parents wrote to the Connecticut governor. They wrote, quote, "Potential forensic investigations made possible by significant advances in technology in the intervening decade are not being carried out due to shortcomings in the Connecticut Forensic Science Laboratory. The governor's office admitted that the lab also had a backlog of 12,000 DNA samples that needed to be tested. In November 2009, they finally got a match for the DNA taken from underneath Suzanne's fingernails. Unfortunately, it was determined that the match was with a trace evidence technician in the Connecticut State Police Forensic Laboratory, and it was accidentally contaminated at the lab. At the end of June 2008, the Joven Task Force revealed that only days after the crime, a female motorist told police at the time that she was driving in the area of Whitney Avenue. And if you'll remember, I talked about earlier, that's the area where the couple, the man and woman, was heard arguing around 9:45. So around 10 p.m. when she was driving by, she saw a white male sprint past her and disappear into the church property. There was never an explanation given as for why this testimony was withheld from the public for nearly a decade. Sources say the police at the time showed this woman a photo of Yale professor James Van de Velde. Van de Velde was Suzanne's thesis advisor and someone with whom she had recent conflict with. Police showed the woman a photo of Van de Velde and asked her if that was the same man that she saw that night, and she said it was not. They then took her in an unmarked van to Van de Velde's office on campus so she could look at him in person. The woman told them that Van de Velde was not the man she saw running on the night of Suzanne's murder, and investigators never contacted her again. There are quite a few theories regarding Suzanne Joven's murder. Some are much more plausible than others. One of these theories that I will only spend a few seconds on because personally I find it ridiculous is regarding the senior thesis that she was writing at the time. Suzanne was writing her senior thesis on Osama bin Laden pre-9/11. The theory is that some Al-Qaeda operatives murdered her over this paper. The first theory that I personally find the most plausible states that the killer was the unnamed person in the email from Suzanne to her friend on the night of the murder. This was the person, the someone that she referred to but wouldn't name by name, who had borrowed Suzanne's books and was supposed to be returning them soon, possibly even the night that she was killed. The reason police believe this person might be responsible is because the books have never been returned or found, and no one has ever come forward to say that they were the person mentioned in the email. This does seem extremely suspicious. You would think that if the person who borrowed the books was innocent, that they would come forward and identify themselves to police, and maybe they could provide some kind of information if they had talked to Suzanne that night, if she was on the way to their place, or any information that they could give them. The complete silence and never coming forward when they obviously surely had to hear about this murder is very suspicious. Another theory, although many do not believe this, is a robbery gone wrong. If you'll remember, when Suzanne's body was found, she was still wearing her jewelry, she had a crumpled up dollar bill in her pocket, and later on her wallet was found in her room. There just doesn't seem to be any indication that this was any kind of robbery. Also, as we know, 17 stab wounds, a kind of attack like that, a blitz attack, and it being so savage, is usually a more personal attack and a sign of rage. Another reason that's unlikely is that Suzanne was found 2 miles from where she was last seen. She obviously wasn't headed back to her place to go to sleep. She was heading away from her apartment and was going to see someone. Stabbing is a very intimate way of killing someone, and usually with a robbery or a random robber, they're going to hold you at gunpoint or use a weapon like that. And even if they do have a knife and they end up stabbing you, generally someone who didn't know her would not stab her that many times. The next theory, of course, is Suzanne's professor, James Van de Velde. Suzanne had no known enemies. She pretty much got along with everyone. The only person she did not get along with completely was Professor Van de Velde. Sources say that Suzanne thought that he could be more helpful to her in the process of her thesis, and she felt that he was blowing her off. Suzanne's parents confirmed this and said that over Thanksgiving break, Suzanne was complaining about it and that there was a lot of tension in the relationship. Police got Van de Velde's name out to the media within a few days of the murder. He was the only official suspect named by police in this case, and as a result, his career at Yale was ruined. Many people thought that because the police honed in on him and him alone so early after her murder, that it hampered the investigation because they didn't look at anybody else. There is no direct evidence tying Vandevelde to Suzanne's murder. He even offered to take a polygraph and give a blood sample, neither of which the police took him up on. One thing that I wonder about is, where is the paper that the student Peter Stein that she ran into at 9:15 saw in her hand? Where did that go? It wasn't found with her body, so did she drop it off somewhere? I think that's a really important clue. In 2013, James Vandevelde settled a lawsuit with Yale University and the city of New Haven. The city of New Haven paid him $200,000 and Yale University paid him an undisclosed amount. After the lawsuit, he was officially cleared as a suspect. The final theory we have involves a fellow student at Yale who had some mental problems. I'm not going to use his real name out of respect for his family, but it's nothing that a simple Google search can't find. But he's commonly called Billy online, so we'll use that. Billy was known to have rage issues and severe anger towards women. On the night of Suzanne's murder, he allegedly told his roommate, quote, "They will never catch me." His roommate just thought it was a bad joke at the time. Since he was an architectural student, people knew that he regularly had access to X-Acto knives, which sounded like the blade piece found in Suzanne's skull. Many people feel that he has a strong resemblance to the sketch that was given out by police, and that he has a similar green jacket to the one described by the woman that the man was wearing who ran away. Billy also spoke German just like Suzanne did. His friends say that he was completely obsessed with the murder of Suzanne Joven to the point where it interfered in his daily life. In 2012, he allegedly told a friend that he was afraid he was going to be arrested for her murder. Unfortunately, police will never be able to interview Billy because later that year, he committed suicide by stepping out into traffic. The horrible murder of 21-year-old Suzanne Joven still remains unsolved. The case is still being actively investigated. Her murder continues to haunt Yale University and many in that community.